This is Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. When I think back to late summer days as a kid, some of my strongest sense memories come from fishing. I could so clearly remember the pungent, earthy smell that would emerge when I'd open one of those plastic containers of earthworms and soil from the bait store. I could still feel the slight stomach churn that had come up when I'd push a hook into a fat worm. And there's the sound of water on a paddle from canoeing with my grandpa at dawn to check his limb lines for catfish. It's been a while now since I've gone fishing, but those memories float right to the surface anytime I see anglers out on Lake Champlain. Later in the hour, we're going to talk a lot more about fishing, bass fishing in particular. That's because high schools across Vermont are growing their varsity co-ed bass fishing teams. And we really want to hear your stories. Did you learn to fish as a kid? Who taught you? And why do you love it? You can email us now at vermontedition@vermontpublic.org. But first, let's talk about some important new fish and wildlife regulations that went into effect this summer. They're the result of Act 47, which the Vermont State Legislature signed into law this past session. Here to tell us more about it is Andrea Shortsleeve. She's the Chief of Operations for Vermont Fish and Wildlife. Hey, Andrea.
Hi, Michaela. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you. And we're going to be covering a lot of different regulations over the next 20 minutes or so. So listeners, if you have questions or comments about them, you can give us a call at 800-639-2211. So, Andrea, Act 47 is very wide-ranging. Y'all got a lot done this year. Let's start with some of the very basic changes to big game violations.
Sure.
What's different now?
Well, the Act 47, like you said, is really wide-ranging, and it really kind of addresses the wide mission of the department, touches all the things that we do. And for the big game violations, it helps strengthen our wardens' ability to enforce poaching cases. So things like deer jacking, taking something out of season. And so it increases the fines. It also allows for them to have a little discretion about how they're prosecuting crimes.
And the maximum prison sentence for repeat offenders has gone up rather significantly.
It has, yes.
Yeah, from 60 days to 180 days.
Yeah.
When we talk about big game in Vermont, what are we talking about?
Yeah, so we were talking about deer, which is usually the most easily thought of thing.
Yep.
White-tailed deer, we have moose, black bear, and wild turkey.
Okay. And does Vermont just define that in the same way as other states? And are these regulations like kind of unique to Vermont or similar? Do we know?
So yeah, each state, is responsible for making up their own regulations and violation punishments. But we do share an interstate compact with, I think, almost all the states in the country. So if you have a violation in Vermont, then your hunting license will be impacted in another state.
Okay. So new big game violations. There are also some new regulations in Act 47 around confidential information to protect certain species. How does that work?
Yeah, so this addresses our threatened, endangered, and rare species. So part of Act 47 addresses this confidential location, like you mentioned. And so when our department is working with a developer or someone looking for a permit, they go through the system, and if there is a threatened, endangered, rare species that is in their development area, this new law allows us to keep that location confidential to the public, and that's to protect, species that are really unique and vulnerable that can be either persecuted or, over collected, sought out by people who are looking to collect unique plants like the small world pogonia that I think was on the show a few years ago. So we only have small populations of certain plants. And if we release the information about where they are, they become a lot more vulnerable.
Okay, so it's a little like witness protection.
Correct.
For plants and animals.
Right. And in general, we try to be very transparent about where species are and where people can go find them, because we want people to go out and experience the wildlife we have and the cool plants that are on the landscape. But for certain populations that are pretty unique and vulnerable, we need to keep that confidential.
Right. Are there other examples of plants or animals that are on this list that might surprise people as protected species?
Yeah, I think, maybe not surprised, but I think about like timber rattlesnakes, locations where they're nesting. We
Wait,
won't.
you're not going to tell me where rattlesnake nests are?
No, unfortunately not.
No. How will I stay away?
But other things, like spotted turtles, other animals that are, easily to collect, and then have a really big impact on their population if they're removed from the ecosystem.
All right, so there's these new protections for species that are persecuted historically. This new law also repealed a state statute that required your department to pay farmers for crop damage caused by deer or black bears. Why was that repealed?
Well, frankly, it was we just don't have the money available to do that, and it really probably lies more within the ag agency dealing with crop depredation, and they were supportive of this language in the bill, and it hopefully will benefit Vermonters by going through a different system.
Okay, so there still could be a way for farmers who experience that crop damage from animals to get money from the state?
Yeah, I think, and I don't want to go over my skis here, but I think that's being developed.
Okay, thank you. And this law also, there's so much stuff in here. I feel like I'm popping all around, but that's
okay.
That's how
Yeah.
Act 47 goes. This law creates new regulations around owning or selling a specific species of turtle.
Correct.
Pond slider turtle.
sliders.
What are they? Why are we protecting them?
Well,
or keeping them out?
Yeah, we're not
We're not.
protecting
No,
them. So they're a species that aren't from our region, but they are very popular in the pet trade. A lot of people like to have them as pets. Inevitably, they're long-lived species. People get tired of having them, and unfortunately, sometimes we'll put them into ponds and lakes in Vermont, and they become very invasive and outcompete our native turtles. So what Act 47 is looking at is, or I guess legislated, is that we've now banned the sale of pond sliders in Vermont. And so if folks already have them, that's great. Please keep them. Love your pets. But
okay, that seems important. So
yes.
if you have a pond slider and you're listening, you shouldn't just toss it out with the bathwater.
It's absolutely fine that you have one.
Okay.
But the future sale of them is no longer.
Okay. And are these changes permanent?
They are.
Okay.
Yes.
What does a pond slider turtle look like? Do we know? Do I need to do a quick Google?
I mean, it's got a hard shell, a neck that sticks
It's
out.
a turtle.
Yeah. It's pretty much kind of your characteristic turtle that you could picture.
Real turtle's turtle here. Okay.
There's a couple different varieties that have different colorations, but yeah.
All right, cool. And speaking of reptiles and amphibians, this new act, Act 47, also prohibits taking reptiles or amphibians from nature without permission from Fish and Wildlife, and that's going to start on January 1st of 2027. What was the rationale behind that change?
Well, again, these species are quite vulnerable. Up until the passage of Act 47, there was no protection for the take or the harm of these species. There was our wardens didn't have any ability to enforce anything if they saw someone taking them, and so it really focuses on something that the department is working quite hard on, protecting our rare species and then also keeping our common species common. And so, I mentioned that these species, once they're removed from the ecosystem, they aren't replaceable very quickly. They just have a really slow reproductive rate. And so providing, this protection will hopefully, add to the biodiversity of our state and protect them in the long term.
If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Andrea Shortsleeve with Vermont's Department of Fish and Wildlife about a whole host of new fish and wildlife regulations that are going into effect soon or just went into effect this past summer. If you have any questions about the regulations we're discussing, they're all umbrellaed under something called Act 47. You can call in at 800-639-2211. Andrea, this seems like a pretty significant achievement for Fish and Wildlife, this large bill. I know things, it's not easy to get anything through any state body.
Right.
I imagine this was many years of work.
Yeah, we're this is one reason why we wanted to come talk about it, because it is something that's worth celebrating, this Fish and Wildlife Conservation Bill that benefits, Vermonters and our natural resources. And this was, like you said, it was the culmination of a lot of years of work. Our department's been thinking about a lot of these ideas and have been working with legislators for a number of years before we kind of introduced this whole package. Getting senators and representatives out on field trips with our biologists and doing a lot of public talks with them has really paid off. And so we're really happy with this.
Yeah. And there are also some elements of the new law that deal with fishing and getting more people out fishing. We're going to save those, though, for our conversation a little bit later in the hour. But since I just brought up fish, I want to talk about a new regulation that's separate from Act 47. It's a new ban on commercial crappie fishing. There was some pushback on this from commercial anglers earlier in the year. Why the new ban?
Well, and so just to be clear for everyone who's listening, so, Act 47 was something that went through the legislature. They have the authority to help us with biodiversity work and creating, new seasons and things like that. The ban of the commercial sale for crappie or crappie, I guess, depending on where you're from. So that sits with the Fish and Wildlife Board, which is, its own entity. It's a group of 14 members who are selected by the governor, and they are charged with creating the hunting, angling, trapping laws and the limits for each of those seasons. And so this was a proposal among some other fish-related regulations, fishing rules that the board took up this winter, and they felt that banning the sale of crappie within the state was something that would help with enforcement and also just helping the social fishing scene. There was a lot of anecdotal information about poor behavior around crappie because it is fairly valuable in relation to other commercially sold species.
Poor behavior.
And I don't want to point fingers, but there were some anecdotal stories about
Yeah, and I also know that there was some illegal activity with selling fish not caught in Vermont to local buyers who were thinking they were getting fish from the state.
Correct. Yeah, and our neighboring states, New Hampshire and New York, you are not allowed to commercially sell crappie, and so anglers would fish there. Or, we heard, and the board heard, that they would fish in other states and then sell it here.
Yeah. I know commercial fishing can have an impact on aquatic ecosystems. Is the industry large enough here to have a measurable impact on lakes like Lake Champlain, where the majority of commercial fishing occurs?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I don't quite know that. I know that there are some significant markets overseas that some of our fish will be sold to, but I'm not sure I really have that information on how it can impact the fishery as a whole. There's been studies looking at the size of fish that are in bodies of water that are commercially sold, and I think it's looking that it could have some impact, but I don't have definite information to share right now about that.
Yeah. Well, we're going to keep talking fishing in just a minute, though we do have to take a short break here. Right now, we are joined by Andrea Shortsleeve with Vermont Fish and Wildlife. And coming up, we're going to hear about Vermont's efforts to get more people out fishing, including high school students. More and more of them are getting into competitive bass fishing. And we want to hear from you, too. You could say we are fishing for some calls. Are you planning to take a first-timer out fishing this weekend? Or have you long been bass fishing? You want to share some tips or tell us how you learned about it? You can call in right now at 800-639-2211 or email your bass fishing stories to vermontedition@vermontpublic.org. Stay with us. Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. Here's some news for high schoolers who want to play a team sport but might not be interested in football, soccer, or the like. Many local high schools are growing their varsity bass fishing teams. Vermont started its co-ed program in 2019, and now around 20 high schools have their own squads. Joining us to tell us more is Scott Green, the varsity fishing coach at Harwood Union High School in Duxbury. Hey, Scott. Scott, can you hear us?
I I can. Thank you.
Okay. Hi. Good to hear from you.
Good.
We
Yes, thank you for having me.
we also have Jeff Goodrich here in the studio with us today. He's the chair of the Vermont Principals Association's Fishing Committee and the athletic director at Essex High School. Jeff, welcome.
Good afternoon. Great to see you. Thanks for having us in.
And we have also convinced Vermont Fish and Wildlife's Chief of Operations, Andrea Shortsleeve, to stick around because, Andrea, you know Jeff pretty well. You actually probably know him better as Mr. Goodrich. He was your teacher back in high school, right?
Yeah, a couple of years ago.
Just a few. Jeff, I have to ask, since we have this rare student-teacher opportunity, what do you remember about Andrea from high school? Give us the scoop.
Well, Andrea was an incredible student and a tremendous athlete as well. She was a runner on our track team and I believe cross country as well.
Correct.
I did not coach cross country, but I did coach track team at the time, and a wonderful human being, great family, and great to see her today.
It's very generous.
It must be so fun as a teacher and educator to see your former students kind of rise to these different positions all around Vermont.
She was greeted with an incredible congratulations. Super, super proud of everything, and she's doing incredible work. Great to hear her on the radio as well earlier today.
Well, Scott, I imagine it's also very fun for you to see the students that you work with at Harwood Union go on to many different things. How long have you been working with Harwood Union High School?
Yeah, I took on the role. This is going to be my 6th year with Harwood and coaching the team. And in that time, we've really tried to develop a very well-rounded team of anglers with lots and lots and lots of knowledge that they bring to help each other learn about bass fishing.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know we have some folks who love bass fishing out there, and we want to hear from you today. What do you love about it? Take the bait. Give us a call, or my puns will not stop. 800-639-2211 is our number. You can also email us to vermontedition@vermontpublic.org. Jeff, I hear that this Vermont high school bass fishing program was an idea we snagged from our New Hampshire neighbors. Can you tell us the origin story?
I certainly can. It's a fairly wild story. I was actually attending a service at a local funeral home and ran into Sean Graves. He was there mourning the loss of his great aunt, and I saw him in the parking lot, and his vehicle was covered in bass fishing stickers. And the Oxbow athletic director at the time and I had just spoke about the possibility of getting bass fishing started as a high school sport when I was athletic director for the first time around. So I went up to this gentleman, Sean Graves, and asked what his connection to fishing was. And he said, I run bass fishing for the state of New Hampshire. And we exchanged numbers. And he was a instrumental cog in getting this started in Vermont. We had a lot of support from him and a number of other clubs within the state, including the Champlain Bass Series and Chris Weber and Jimmy Kennedy. And we were off and running from that moment.
And it was an exhibition sport for a couple of years, right? What does that mean?
Yeah, so typically the Vermont Principals Association has a process for new sports that have to show viability over a period of time, usually 2 years. So we are given the opportunity to compete. Nobody would really know it was exhibition versus fully sanctioned. And after you can show that you have a viability, you can become fully sanctioned. So that occurred after its 2nd or 3rd year.
And Scott, what do you remember about that first year with Harwood? What was it? You said 6 years back. What was it like pulling together a team?
So it really wasn't. It wasn't that difficult. It was generated through a couple of anglers that were, young adults that fished every day, had the passion for the sport, really took it upon themselves to go to the athletic director and present it to the athletic director to really get the athletic director to buy into the goal and the dream of having a fishing team. And from there, it really took off. The number of student anglers, I parallel your indication of your memories of bass fishing with my own. we have stories passed along from grandparents and, fish on the wall and maybe old stories of camps and, places on particular bodies of water in the state that, these kids all can relate to, and it drives their, curiosity to the sport, which then really, excites the fishing spirit. So it really wasn't a hard thing. The kids just started to say, what is this about? And then, from there, we are, our team has grown to 16 members currently. And certainly, there's far more interest than just those members in regards to the sport.
No, that's great to hear. And Andrea, I know the Department of Fish and Wildlife is invested in getting more people out fishing too, in part because people pay for fishing licenses, but for lots of reasons. And Act 47, which we were talking about earlier, establishes something called Free Mentored Fishing Weekend, which is coming up this Labor Day, so just a couple days from now. Yep. What is it?
It, just like you said, it's a free weekend for folks who don't have a fishing license to go out with an experienced angler where they can mentor up to 4 individuals without a license. And so it's really aimed at kind of closing this mentorship gap, which we know is a barrier often for people who don't grow up, like we all did, fishing. To get involved in a sport, having a mentor to teach you is a great way to do that, and it also helps the anglers kind of realize the passion that they have and the enjoyment they get from being out on the water.
Yeah. What if I want a mentor but I don't know one?
That's
Can
a
you
good
do
question.
like a mentor match? Can that be in the next round of Fish and Wildlife funding?
That'll be something we have to develop.
Jeff has an idea.
Well, I want to speak to that because the success of the high school bass fishing program would not exist without the Vermont Fish and Wildlife. We've been partnered with them since the beginning. Bernie Petra, I believe his name is, with Vermont Fish and Wildlife, has been a huge help. And his team comes every tournament that we have with the recovery truck, does some education pieces. And again, the clubs, all of our coaches and mentors at some point were likely a member of a club or an angler within an organization. So we owe a lot of the success to a kind of a mentoring process through our coaches and our captains. And Scott's certainly the epitome of that. He is an incredible angler and has been involved in youth fishing for quite some time, and really sets the standard. So appreciate that, Scott.
Scott, who taught you to fish?
My grandfather, just as again paralleling to your story, my relatives, grandparents, really embraced it, and it took off from there. I think it comes from an aspect of curiosity of kind of wondering what is beneath or what is underneath the water. That next cast could be the memory of a lifetime. Exploring our state. A number of different factors that all factor into just the joy of fishing, exploring our wonderful state. I always really try to encourage our team not only to set the standard as far as, competitive fishing, but also to set the standard in regards to the upkeep and the stewardship of our, of our resources, because our resources are what we've had, and they're going to be what they are. We only have a one set of resources here in Vermont, and it's very important to keep those resources healthy, and we do our part to try to learn about it and learn how to do that. And I really do concur with Jeff about the Fish and Wildlife Department. They are a invaluable resource to us in regards to not only our tournaments, but I have fond memories of the Let's Go Fishing program many decades ago that I was a part of, and it was something that I enjoyed and prompted me to continue passing that down to and mentor to anybody that I could.
If these stories of fishing with an older relative are bringing up a memory for you, give us a call at 800-639-2211. Scott, when you went fishing with your grandpa when you were a kid, did he talk? Because when I fished with my grandpa, he was silent. That was one of my main memories when I was thinking about it today.
Well, I I really have to tell you that some of those conversations, and yes, he certainly did. He passed along some stories, whether fact or fiction, that stuck with me for memories. I still remember, and I think that's the great thing about fishing is you can do it by yourself. You can do it with a mentor. You can do it with a group of individuals, like a high school team. And those memories stick with you. And my grandparents certainly gave me some valuable stories that I still remember to this day. So yes, he certainly did talk quite a bit.
Oh, we were talking just a minute ago about fishing licenses and how to get out on the water in a legal way. We just got a question about that from Kim in Johnson that I'll send over to you, Andrea. Kim writes, is there an age at which a fishing license is no longer needed? Are there deals for seniors on purchasing one? If not, I don't know if you know that off the top of your head, but
yeah, I think it's age 65,
okay.
If I'm not mistaken, where you can buy a permanent license, and so it's a one-time fee, and after that, you have a permanent license.
And it's Act 47 that we were talking about earlier also allows Vermonters with developmental disabilities to apply for free permanent fishing licenses.
Correct.
Why was that change made?
That came from Senator Ruth Hardy, and she had a constituent that was really supportive of this idea, and the department supported it to improve the lives of Vermonters. Fishing is a great way to connect to nature and get folks outside that maybe don't have the other opportunities to participate in other activities. So we wanted to remove the barrier of having to pay for a license to do that.
Yeah, and Jeff, I can imagine that having bass fishing as a high school sport is also a way to get kids involved in a school activity, in a group activity, and connect with a teacher, an adult who, might otherwise fall through the cracks in some ways, or maybe they're not particularly interested in school or particularly interested in another team sport, and this is a good option for them.
That's 100% accurate, and data shows that when students are involved in co-curricular activities outside of the regular academic day, their school attendance goes up, their performance goes up, and their opportunities outside of school and beyond school go up. And that's exactly right. Bass fishing is a activity, a sport that may be accessible to a subset of students that otherwise may not be participating. And that's where a number of high school sports in the last decade or so have really come to light. And there's good numbers behind our bowling program and our ultimate program, now bass fishing. So some of these non-traditional
I would
activities.
have totally bowled in high school if that was an
you
option.
Would've.
Yeah.
Of course you would have. So yeah, it's been a great opportunity to expand participation. And along that, we've tried to keep the barriers relatively low because it is a expensive hobby to go out and enjoy with the requirement of a boat. So the boats are all owned by the captains that volunteer their time. They get a gas offset to support that. But that's where those partnerships have really paid tremendous dividends. A roster is the size of 2. So if there's a school administrator out there or athletic director or a community member that has a child that wants to get started, certainly feel free to reach out, and I'll try to help get that started.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question for you is what kind of resources does a school need to kick off a bass fishing team?
Yeah, relatively low barrier. So minimum roster size of 2. So every school's got at least one angler, and they probably got more than that. So they just need to find each other and then contact their athletic director, and they can contact me. Having access to a boat and a captain is obviously vital. Our tournaments are held on Lake Champlain out of Jeff Gilmet Launch there in South Hero. And our boundaries are the inland sea, so it's a fairly protected space. So we've had pretty good success over the last 7 years getting out for each of our tournaments. So yeah, relatively low cost despite the overhead of a bass boat or a boat of some kind. There are minimum expectations: 16 feet, 16-foot boat, a live well to preserve the fish while they're out fishing. And but yeah, I'm happy to connect with anyone that's interested in getting us started. We've got over 20 teams now, as you said earlier. I will point out from your earlier portion, it's all artificial bait. There's no more worms, or at least not worms for competitive bass fishing.
What's the artificial bait look like? Can you just, or what is it?
Yeah, so a lot of plastics, and I know that's not great for the environment, so we try to keep those intact.
Sorry, blowing your cover.
No, that's okay. Scott's probably got a much better answer because
Scott, tell us
I
about
had a son that was interested in fishing. That's how I got involved.
You went opposite generational.
Well, I got him involved in our little 14-foot Starcraft that grandfather passed down, and we had great talks. And you get him offshore, and all of a sudden he can't go away. So we had great talks, and he just took off with it. So that's how I became more interested. But Scott, what's your secret bait that you've been catching the lunkers on?
Well, there is such a wide variety of styles and techniques, and each each particular kind of caters to what the individual really likes to use. Some folks like something that moves quickly in the water. Other folks like to kind of bump a lure along the bottom. So depending upon kind of what you're looking to do and what your outcome would be, there's lots and lots of lures, and they're made from numbers of different materials. I know that many companies have gone to lures that are biodegradable in regards to artificials. So there's certainly a thought process in that. But the sky's the limit as far as different presentations and different baits. Certainly at your local tackle store, there's numbers of choices.
I think Scott's keeping it close to the vest on that answer. Harwood's chasing that 8th season crown.
Yes, Scott will talk off air about your bait secrets. Andrea, I can imagine that this bass fishing program is an exciting development for your department.
Yeah, it's super cool. I think, our department's super supportive of it. We help, as Mr. Goodrich, as Jeff said, we help with during the tournaments with the handling of the fish and re-releasing them after the tournament's over. But we're just, anything that we can do to help get Vermonters out there, especially the high school age, is awesome, and really support both Scott and Jeff promoting this and championing it.
Well, let's pause for one more short break here. Andrea Shortsleeve with Vermont Fish and Wildlife. We're going to let you get back to work. Thank you so much for coming by.
Yeah.
And our bass fishing coach, Scott Green, and fishing committee director, Jeff Goodrich, are going to stick around with us. We would also love to hear your fishing stories or questions that you might have about the high school bass fishing program we're discussing today. You can email Vermont Edition at vermontpublic.org or call in at 800-639-2211. This is Vermont Edition. Stay with us. Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. This hour, we are talking about the growth of bass fishing as a high school co-ed varsity sport. Joining us is Scott Green, the varsity fishing coach at Harwood Union High School in Duxbury, and Jeff Goodrich, the chair of the Vermont Principals Association's Fishing Committee and the athletic director at Essex High School. Jeff, do kids get like a varsity jacket if they join this team, one of these teams?
Varsity jackets have made a comeback, and yes, they can get a varsity letter for participating on the bass fishing team.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Or maybe it should be like a raincoat or something.
That would make sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that could make sense.
Scott, can you give us a little look inside how you coach a bass fishing team? Like, do you all have practices? Are you doing drills? Are you lifting weights? What's that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of components to coaching a bass fishing team. First, practice, as any sport. It does incur that you do use a lot of muscle memory, physical, casting techniques. But also with that, there's a number of skill building components in regards to the biology aspect of it. Learning how to understand the water that you're fishing, the biology part of the natural migration patterns of the fish within the waters that they live in. We talk about what's called the thermocline. We talk about bait movement.
Wait. What's the thermocline?
So thermocline is a process of when water creates a kind of a lid between two layers of water, where the colder water that might be in a pond that sits, and then the warmer water above creates a thermocline or a line down at a certain depth within that water column. And as those two water temperature or types of water kind of merge together, they form a thermocline, which has all aspects of what fish really like, which is, they want cooler water, but yet they want oxygenated water, and they want a source of food. And so when those components are all together, you find some of the better places to fish. And my grandfather used to tell me that 90% of the fish are in 10% of the water, and that 10% moves around all the time. So, teaching our team how to read the water and understand it really helps them become better anglers, but it also it helps them build skills in regards to understanding where we're fishing and how to be more effective at catching, having better catch rates.
Okay, so there's a whole biology, ecology lesson in there. Jeff, I imagine that's another check in the yes column for high schools to create a bass fishing team to teach their kids science.
100%. There's definitely a lot of science involved. It's more than just throwing something in the water and hoping for the best. I love that message that your grandfather gave, Scott, about 90% of the fish and 10% of the water, because very often, if you're not fishing where the fish are, you're probably not going to have much luck. And understanding the ecosystem and those changes are definitely going to improve your chances.
Yeah. So you said that the competitions, the tournaments are on Lake Champlain. Are there teams that are far away from the lake or go to other bodies of water?
Yeah, we have schools all over the state. Burton Academy, for instance, down in Manchester, Vermont, they travel up early in the morning. We start quite early. We have our coaches meeting usually around 6:45 in the morning with a 7:30 start. So we have Newport in the past has come and joined. Again, 20 different schools, all different sizes. And we've had a really unique experience. In the first 7 years, we've had 7 different winners from all different size schools, from Division I all the way through Division IV.
So there's no powerhouse school that's emerged.
There's yet to be a powerhouse school emerge, correct.
Maybe Harwood, Scott.
Harwood is a powerhouse. No. Don't get me wrong. Harwood is a powerhouse, but they are one of the 7 champions over the 7 years. And last year, Mount Abe from down in Bristol had a co-ed team, siblings, that won the championship. So it's very competitive, and the camaraderie as well. I heard you reference other sports, and there's certainly camaraderie amongst other sports, but the competitors in bass fishing, there's so much good parking lot or truck talk, that really builds relationships. And some of these relationships extend, beyond high school. I know my son is still in touch with several of the anglers from when he was in high school doing it. So, and there's college opportunities. I just talked to a student angler the other day that graduated from Randolph that fished through college down south, and he did quite well and got some financial support for that. So there's definitely opportunities. It's a growing sport for sure.
Scott, have you ever talked to your kids at Harwood about that, about ways that bass fishing could translate into an opportunity in college or beyond? Absolutely.
And, with the resources that kids have these days in looking up that information, a lot of them really get self-motivated to find those opportunities. And, as Jeff said, the opportunities, colleges really enjoy student athletes, and I pride myself and our team, along with our whole organization, into our student athletes, and the schools really want to promote that as an activity within their schools and colleges. And I, one of the things that I enjoy is I am starting to see kids that I have coached from a freshman level now into college. I have one angler that now is on a boat up in Maine doing biology work through their school. So it's a pathway to a future possible career in many aspects of an outdoor. There's so many facets of activities that are generated through fishing that you can become involved with, not just the fishing aspect. And a lot of these kids take that opportunity to get involved. So it's a great way to see those individuals follow their dreams and goals.
We're talking high school bass fishing with Scott Green from Harwood Union High School and Jeff Goodrich from Essex High School. Jeff, can you paint us a picture of what these tournaments look like? You said kids start out pretty early. It's like 7:30. They're in a boat for 2 people. What happens?
Yeah, it's very exciting. We have just under 40 boats that have been going out for the last couple of years. We run a varsity and a JV program for the state championship, and we run an open tournament for the first tournament, which will be September 20th this year. And those 40 boats all enter the water, and it's a signal start where you get a boat number called, and boat 1 takes off first all the way down, and they call them out. We have a starter boat. And they head off to their number 1 spots. It's a 7-hour day, and you can have up to 2 anglers fishing at a time, and up to 4 anglers per boat. So you can choose your own changeover point. So you could fish the first anglers for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever that may be, and then come back to the dock and swap them out. And the 4 anglers, if there are 4, all are counting for 1 bag. And we do a 6-fish bag with a 12-inch limit, and they're fishing for total weight. There is
all the fish together.
All the 6 fish together.
Okay.
Yep. And so when you get more than 6 fish, then you start culling your fish. So culling would be if the next fish that comes into the boat is larger than the smallest fish in your well, the small fish goes out, and the next larger one goes in.
Lives to see another day.
They do. Well, they all are going to live to see
live.
another day, thankfully. We have a very low rate of passed fish. Sometimes things happen where a treble hook might get it wrong, or it gets too deep, and we may lose one. And if we do lose them, not that it matters, getting into the weeds here a little bit, which are where some of those big largemouth are. But if a fish does pass in the possession of the angler, they have to weigh that fish. That fish becomes part of their permanent bag.
Oh, okay.
So they don't put them back into the lake.
Got it.
They have to bring them in.
Okay. And Scott, during one of these tournaments, what's your role? What are you telling your students? How are you coaching them or supporting them?
Sure. So within that, as Jeff kind of indicated, 7 hours is a time frame, and within those hours, you as any sport, you have peaks and valleys, and you're in the things that go through your mind in regards to mechanics and skills and the variables that present themselves. A missed fish, or a fish that you get all the way almost to the boat and to the net, and then it falls off can really can affect you as far as I've got to keep pushing on and just let that one go in my mind. So there's a lot of that aspect, coaching that goes on. I like to try to really encourage my team to really take those steps to think about where they want to go and how they want to present their lures in those particular places. Again, it comes into biology, but just really coaching them through that, and then at the end of the time, really, congratulating them for not just the outcome, but the effort, and just talking, about supporting as a mentor their efforts in those events, because when we talk about who has the top billing, it's certainly, I think it's not the angler, it's the fish. They always have the advantage, the natural advantage. So they're always going to be, the variable that we we are only hoping that we are able to unlock.
Jeff?
Yeah, thank you, Coach. That was a setup. I gave Michaela that question because that was a test for you. One of the little known elements of coaching bass fishing is while on the water on tournament day, the coaches are not to tell them, the anglers, where to fish or what to fish with. Everyone assumes that's the case. That would be a guide. And the coaches aren't guides. The coaches are to coach them up, to teach them where good places to go may be.
Oh, important distinction there.
But there is a big distinction. And so, Coach, you nailed it. Great job. But just to be clear.
He did not give me that question to
No,
our
I did
listeners.
not. No, I
was
did not. I'm
baited.
sorry. Well played. So, yeah, it's all about giving them the information about what their strategies will be. And then, as Coach said, to coach them up along the way. And to deal with the roller coaster that is being out on the water for up to 7 hours.
Yeah. What if there's bad weather?
So we fish in the rain. Fishing can get pretty good in the rain. The only thing that really gets us off water is lightning. Obviously, we have emergency plans for that, or high winds. And knock on wood, we haven't had to go to an alternate date yet. But we would go to an alternate date if the winds were too much or if there was a electric storm in the area.
Yeah. Scott, we have not had very much rain this summer. Does that affect fishing conditions?
Certainly. Current in any body of water will be one of the biggest variables of where fish are in that body of water. And that, as we talked about thermocline, that certainly will affect the natural creation of a thermocline. When there's more current, the thermocline will be not as prevalent. Whereas if there's less current and less water coming into the lake and exiting the lake, that will certainly affect how the fish move, how the bait moves, the temperature of the water, the vegetation, there's lots of different factors. So it does make a difference. And yearly patterns can change due to those factors.
We just started a new school year. Kids are back in the classrooms. Jeff, what are your hopes for this program as we enter this 2025-2026 school year?
Yeah, my hope is that we continue the slow and steady growth that we've been experiencing since we started the program 7 years ago. We've added schools just about every year, so I want to see that continue to grow. And in terms of Essex program, we continue to have good numbers. We have incredibly dedicated coaches, and that kids have a wonderful experience, and that they get hooked on something that can take into their
stop.
I know that they can take into their adulthood and share with future generations. It really, the competition is great, but the experience in the process far exceeds the outcomes, as Scott was saying.
Yeah. And Scott, what are your hopes for this year?
My hopes is that we do have some great coaches, but anybody that has the ability to take the steps to be a mentor and be part of this bass fishing community, in regards to high school coaching, my voice is an unbelievably positive experience, and we would really like to have more folks step up and be coaches and mentors and get kids out fishing.
Scott Green is the varsity fishing coach at Harwood Union High School in Duxbury. Scott, thanks so much for talking to us today, telling us about your team.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And hopefully we might accomplish one of our goals, which is to be the two-time champions of the Vermont State Bass Fishing Team. But certainly, either way, we're going to have a great season, and we've got a great group of folks along with the Fish and Wildlife that make it a pretty special experience no matter how the outcome kind of unfolds.
Well, good luck with achieving that goal this year. We also had Jeff Goodrich with us this hour. He's the chair of the Vermont Principals Association's Fishing Committee and the athletic director at Essex High School. Jeff, thanks so much for your time. This was fun.
Really appreciate it. If anyone wants to get more information, feel free to reach out.
All right, well, that is all the time that we have for today. Our show is directed by Aaliyah Papes. John Ahrens is our managing producer. Andrea Lorian and Daniela Fierro are our producers. And our call screener today was Rick Barrett. Our theme music is by Myra Flynn. I'm Michaela Lafrac. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch up again soon.